summed up.
The 34-year-old and his wife were killed in a car crash in France last week. All new legislation would be subject to a climate change test if a Green Party bill is passed. The Climate Impact Disclosure Statement bill would require legislation to be accompanied by a statement that shows what impact it will have on greenhouse gas emissions. It won't be binding, but co-leader James Shaw says it will mean people can hold the government to account.
What this bill would do would be to ensure that Parliament is thinking about the impact of every new piece of legislation that we introduce on climate change.
Rock band The Foo Fighters have cancelled 2 European performances after frontman Dave Grohl broke his leg in a spectacular fall from the stage. Grohl was performing in Sweden when he tumbled during the second song and badly injured himself. He left the hospital to be treated, only to return an hour later to finish the concert. It's 7:02.
Radio Live Sport.
A massive blow to the Chiefs as they head into the Super Rugby playoffs next week. Halfback Augustine Pulu's fractured a bone in his right arm in last night's 21-13 loss to the Hurricanes in New Plymouth. Pulu had surgery earlier today to insert a plate, but will be sidelined for 8 to 10 weeks. The Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic and New South Wales Swifts are set to fight for a place in the Trans-Tasman Netball final in Brisbane next week. Brett Murphy reports from the Claudelands Arena in Hamilton.
The Magic will be hoping history repeats after knocking the Swifts out of the semi-finals last year, and with the capacity home crowd of 4,400 fans cheering them on, they will believe another grand finals appearance is more than possible, with inspirational captain Casey Kopoa's battle with Caitlin Thwaites likely to go a long way to determining who will face the Queensland Firebirds next Sunday night. In Hamilton, Brett Murphy, Radio Live Sport.
Mali has upset Germany in a tense penalty shootout in Christchurch to advance to the semi-final stage of the FIFA Under-20 World Cup. That game score was 4-3. Brazil's kept its 19-game unbeaten streak at the tournament alive with another penalty shootout win over Portugal in Hamilton. And the United States and Serbia currently locked in a penalty shootout after a scoreless 120 minutes to decide which team moves through. And Senegal's added to the semi-final African flavour by defeating Uzbekistan 1-0 in Wellington. It's 7:03.
Radio Live weather.
With Mammoth Modern Insulation. Be warm and lower your energy bills. 0800 Mammoth.
For Northland right through to Waikamu, including Taupo, Taumaranui. Occasional showers and more wet stuff tomorrow as well. At Coromandel Bay, plenty fine spells. Isolated showers clear out tomorrow evening. Taranaki through to Manawatu, including Taihapu. There are some showers on the forecast, and there may even be some snow affecting the desert road tonight. Gisborne to Wairarapa, also Horo Whenua through to Wellington. Fine, but some showers hang around tomorrow. Nelson and Marlborough mainly fine. Showers on the forecast for Monday. Bulla and Westland showers clearing south of Hokitika tonight and elsewhere tomorrow morning. For Canterbury, mainly fine. Some showers overnight and more showers through Banks Peninsula later tomorrow. Otago, Southland and Fiordland expect the wet weather to move north today. There'll be some heavy falls with hail possible tomorrow. Snow down to 100 metres or 200 metres for a time overnight and early tomorrow. For the Chatham Islands, expect occasional showers on the forecast. I'm Aroha Hathaway. It's 7:05 on Radio Live.
It's Sunday Social, an hour dedicated to social media with Vaughan Davis.
And welcome to Sunday Social, a whole hour of jargon-free and human-friendly chit-chat about the useful, weird, and sometimes just interesting world of the internet, social media, and apps. Apps for that smartphone you got talked into buying when your Nokia 5120 finally bit the dust after all those years of faithful service. You still see them around sometimes. It's sort of become the hipster retro thing to have the Nokia 5120. Hey, I'd love you to be part of the show tonight. So as always, text 3920 keyword live, comes up on a big screen right in front of my schnoz. Tweet me at Vaughan Davis, and I'm going to get all of you on Twitter if it kills me. We've been doing this for a year and a half now, and I think we've dragged a few people into the Twitter sphere. And if you are on Twitter, you'll see that we're streaming this on Periscope, which is a nifty little video screening app, which at the moment I think is pointed at the back of my head, but we might improve that as the show goes on. And of course, over on YouTube, youtube.com/Vaughan Davis TV. Later in the show, the stylish and well-informed Mr. Simon Pound with the apps and internet news of the week, including one that promises to tell you in real time just how awful the weather is out there. It's certainly pretty bad here in Auckland, and I was watching on the TV news just before. The south coast of Wellington is getting it, but it looks pretty cool. Hey, but first,
how come you're always such a fussy young man? Don't want no Captain Crunch, don't want no Raisin Bran. Well, don't you know that other kids are starving in Japan? So eat it, just eat it. Don't want to argue, I don't want to debate.
you can argue all day about what poverty means, and even if you do agree, that just starts a whole new argument about how many families are affected by it, and especially children. What's not in doubt is that every day a heap of New Zealand kids head off to school hoping to get through the day without a decent lunch. Michael Meredith is a fancy pants New Zealand chef, although he doesn't look that fancy tonight. He looks shagged, actually, is how he looks. If you're looking at the video stream, you'll see a tired Mr. Michael Meredith. He's a fancy pants New Zealand chef who runs Meredith's restaurant in Mount Eden. In fact, he was named the best chef in the whole damned country just the other day. Lisa King and Ian Buchanan are marketers who've worked on products as delicious as Cadbury chocolate, Mars bars, and V energy drink. All three are parents, and last week they launched a business designed to do some good for hungry New Zealand kids. Lisa and Michael join me tonight in the studio. Hey, welcome.
Thank you.
There's a strange smell. There's a strange smell in the studio, and it makes me weirdly hungry. I can't quite put my finger on it. Would that be honey soy chicken?
It's honey soy chicken for our honey soy chicken wraps tomorrow.
So you're very much hands-on operators of this business, shall we say?
Yeah, absolutely. And even Michael's in our he was in our kitchen today, helping us prep for the 277 lunches we have to make tomorrow.
So you've come straight from chopping up chicken, essentially.
Yeah.
So eat my lunch, Michael. Tell me how it works.
Well, it's quite an easy concept. It's online. You can buy your lunch. For one of those lunch you buy, we give away a free lunch to a kid that needs a lunch at school. So the concept, it's as simple as you're eating your lunch and you're sharing your lunch with someone else who doesn't have a lunch. So I'm guessing the lunches aren't the same. So the lunch for the person who pays for it, whether they're someone in an office or a radio station, if we're really lucky, or a affluent school kid gets one lunch, and then the kid somewhere else gets a different lunch, right? I think the buy lunches, it gets 5 items. For the school lunches, we do like tomorrow we're doing ham and cheese sandwiches, and then they get gingerbread man, and then selections of vegetables, really. So it's 3 items for the kids at school, and then for the buy lunches are 5 items. And it's a real. I mean, the issue in some of the less privileged schools is not just that kids are going without lunch. It's that even when kids do get lunches, they're pretty crappy. I was in Papatoetoe yesterday. It's amazing the suburbs you get to go to when you've got a kid playing soccer. You suddenly sort of travel around a little bit more. And I saw sort of with my own eyes that what I'd seen on Campbell Live, those bloody bags for, is it $2 or $3? And it's, 5 kinds of sugar, 9 kinds of fat, probably some of that Cadbury chocolate you used to sell. Although, and in fact, it wasn't even as good as the Cadbury chocolate. It was just, random chocolate made from dolphin parts or something. Even when kids are getting fed, the quality of what they're being fed is not that great, right?
Yeah, and I think it's really surprising to see when you go to these schools that a lot of the kids are actually overweight. And it's not because they're eating a lot, but what they're eating isn't great for them. And so what we're trying to do is not only provide food, but actually provide really nutritious and fresh food. So the lunches we give are made fresh every day.
Yep.
There's tons of protein in it. It's whole meal bread, fresh vegetables. We were in one school and some of the kids had never tried celery
before.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting because it's like, or even, things like fresh carrots and stuff, because they don't really see that in their sort of upbringing, or they see it, but they don't eat it every day.
And I guess a consequence of this program, so getting, fresh and vegetable-based lunches into schools, is the kids going to go home and they're going to have that expectation. It's almost like that Pesta Power thing that we use to sell our KFC and our Burger King and all those things. It's kind of that in reverse. So they're going home and saying, "Oh, I had a great bloody carrot
steak." Yeah, and I think
Mum,
they do go home.
What's with the bucket of KFC? I want a carrot.
Yeah, they go home and they tell their parents what they've had that day. And things like red cabbage and cherry tomatoes, which aren't exotic to the normal Kiwi, but for these kids, it's the first time they've ever tried it. And so it's a really nice kind of education piece to expose them to lots of different vegetables, but then they also go home and tell their parents about it.
Exactly. So Michael, you're a chef. Lisa, you're a marketer. I'm an advertising guy. So we're like, we're buddies.
Yeah.
Or I eat a lot of food. So Michael, you and I are buddies as well, I suppose. So it's quite the night here, isn't it?
It is.
How did this idea come about? Whose idea was it?
So Ian and I were sitting around one night reflecting on our marketing careers. And as you mentioned, we've marketed some really big brands in New Zealand. Yeah. We realized we'd been marketing fat, salt and sugar to the New Zealand public for the last 15 to 20 years. And the ironic thing is that we don't have these products in our own home and our kids aren't allowed them. So there was a bit of an irony in that.
And has it always been the way? So you're doing ads for chocolate bars, but you've never given your kids chocolate bars.
My kids are so disappointed. We're so disappointed when I'd come home and they're like, "Where's the chocolate?"
And you could have had free chocolate from the prize cupboard at work.
Absolutely,
you're the worst mother ever.
I know, it's terrible. But we just thought there was such an irony in it, and we actually wanted to put our commercial and business skills to actually do some good. And we were really passionate about, child poverty and also obesity. Working in the industries that we work in, it's hugely topical.
So you were sitting down one day, one night. What was the catalyst for that? Were you just
a glass of wine and
say what you like about alcohol, but
it's good for that.
No, I think it's just you get to a point and you kind of think, God, I've been doing the same thing for the last 15, 20 years.
Yep.
I'm approaching 40 and I kind of really wanted to do something really positive by the time I hit that milestone.
Okay. So I get a bunch of people come on the show who've had ideas and turned them into reality. And one thing that always interests me is the time between having that idea and actually pushing the button. How long ago did you have that glass of wine?
It was Labour weekend last year.
That's pretty swift.
Yeah, we don't muck around. And we kind of, did the few things like register the company name, the website. And it wasn't until actually February when we thought, let's actually do this. And so kind of February, we started working every night until midnight, 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
We went and spoke to Michael, I think in about March.
Yeah, so tell us about that. I mean, you think, this thing will do better if it has one of those celebrity chefs in there, or can you guys just not cook? What's the angle?
Well, Ian and I are really great marketers, and we quickly realized that we didn't know much about making hundreds of lunches consistently. And I had actually worked with Michael on one of my previous brands that I was marketing.
But Michael, you run a hoity-toity restaurant. What do you know about making hundreds of lunches at once? Have you got some background in that large-scale stuff as well?
Not at all. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I bring in is the quality. I mean, and sort of diversity, what we can work with. But I mean, we're sort of learning each day as we're going, because I mean, anything you can make, you can multiply that. Obviously, you've got to have the quality in there. So all of the hundreds or whatever the thousands that we might end up doing, it is something that we are learning as we are going. So it's not rocket science, but it's definitely something that we're all working on it. So.
Okay. You're listening to Radio Live Sunday Social. In the studio with me tonight, Lisa and Michael from Eat My Lunch. Back soon.
This week on Sunday Business.
We make it our business to deliver the business to you every Sunday morning, including up-to-the-minute commentary on the week's financial and economic news from interest.co.nz Managing Editor Bernard Hickey. We find out what's been moving the markets with Chris Smith from CMC, and we hear from featured guests, including the country's captains of industry, leading economists, authors, and academics. If you need to know what's happening in the world of business, then one program will deliver it to you.
Sunday Business, New Zealand's only dedicated business show at 11 a.m. on Radio Live. It's Sunday Social, an hour dedicated to social media with Vaughan Davis.
And welcome back to Sunday Social. I'm Vaughan Davis, and we're talking food. In fact, in the break, we were talking about a magnificent promotion that Burger King's running today, $2 Whoppers. Ooh, tasty. But you guys are too busy. You missed out.
We did.
Tell me how Eat My Lunch, well, you've only been going a week, but the mechanics of it. So I order. So here I am. I'm I want to.
Have you ordered?
I haven't, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why soon. I'm going to criticize your website live on air. I order, so I say I want lunch Monday to Friday every week. Yep. That's a box I can tick.
Perfect.
You charge my credit card. What happens next?
So we get your order, and by the Wednesday midnight the week before your lunch gets delivered. That's the cutoff. And so we know for the following week how many lunches we make. And then every single day we have a different menu. And
So what's for lunch tomorrow? So if I had ordered by Wednesday last week,
yes, you would have got a very delicious honey soy chicken wrap.
Yep.
We've got yogurt with mixed berries, shortbread, homemade shortbread, a serving of like cherry tomatoes and veggies, and a mini apple.
So you give me all that for $10 delivered.
To your office.
It sounds like some sort of morning television infomercial. What else do I get? That sounds amazing. But all that for $10 delivered to my office. That sounds pretty cool. But it can't be any office anywhere in New Zealand just yet, can it?
Not just yet. So yeah, we've just mostly in Central Auckland and out to South Auckland at the moment, and we're expanding areas every day, and we're getting inundated with requests to open up to other suburbs and also outside of Auckland to Wellington and Christchurch.
Okay. So I get my fancy lunch that arrives sometime in the morning, I'm guessing. I get my fancy lunch to my palatial advertising agency office. Meanwhile, in South Auckland, what's happening down there in the schools that you're supporting?
I think tomorrow we're doing a delicious ham and cheese and lettuce.
I like a ham and cheese sandwich.
Sandwich, and then we get gingerbread man as well, and they're getting cherry tomatoes and celery. So it's part of the vegetable component of the lunch.
And where is this going to?
So tomorrow we're supplying 3 schools. We're doing Mangere Central, and we're doing a big high school and intermediate as well, which is
Sir Edmund Hillary Collegiate in Otara,
and
also Jean Batten in Mangere East. So when we started a week ago,
back then, in the early days,
we had one school, and that was Mangere Central. But because of the buy one, give one model, the more lunches that people buy, obviously the more lunches we can give. And the response has been phenomenal that we've actually now had to bring on 2 other schools, and we're actually in discussions with a 4th school so that we can give away the equal amount of lunches.
Are you able to share the numbers on air, or would you rather keep that to yourself?
Well, by the end of week 2, we would have delivered well over 1,500 lunches to these schools.
Awesome. So at the school, a big box turns up with a whole lot of brown paper bags in it with all the lunches. Which kids get the lunches? I was thinking about this.
Yeah.
Who gets those lunches?
That's definitely a question everyone asks. We leave it.
Sorry, I've got an interesting one. I've got some original questions here later on in the sheet.
We let the school decide.
Yep.
And, the staff and the teachers, they know which kids need lunch.
And do they sort of subtly, sidle up to kids and say, hey, buddy, have a bag of lunch?
Yeah. So, for example, at Mangere Central, the staff will tell the kids, go to the staff room and go and have your lunch there. So it's done
they're not on display in the school.
No.
I think the thing is the teachers don't want to encourage kids to come to school without lunches.
Yeah, because
free lunches
I was
there.
thinking about that, because if it's kind of work, I know most of your lunches will be going to people who wouldn't otherwise have them. But if word gets round and I'm a parent at one of these schools, I go, oh, job done. I don't need to provide lunch. Michael Meredith will make it for me instead. Have you thought that one through?
I guess, for us, that's not the intention.
Of course not.
We're doing something that it's going to feed the kids that without lunches. But obviously, the word's going to spread, and I guess some of the schools have given us numbers every week, so we're going to keep doing the same numbers.
And then you just you trust them to administer that.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of numbers, is it a business or is it a charity?
It is a business.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think, the reason why we are a business is that we want to actually create a sustainable model. So we don't want to rely on donations and fundraising, but we actually want to have a model that actually is self-sustaining. And the bigger that the business gets, it means the more good that we can do.
So it's what the trendy people would call a social enterprise.
That's right.
It is. And Which way is the money flowing at the moment? I'm guessing that are the three of you the only backers, or are there other people supporting you behind the scenes?
We are the only backers. And, it's all our own money at the moment.
It's all the money you made from the chocolate bars and the energy drinks, so sort of circling back around them upon itself and doing good.
Yeah.
But the ultimate aim is for it to become profitable, and for that not only to feed your families, but expand the business to feed other kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, knowing what you know about the growth rate after 7 whole days, or is it 6? What are your plans for expansion? Because somewhere on your website you talk about hungry kids in New Zealand, not just in Auckland or just in South Auckland, but in New Zealand, and that's a big statement.
Yeah, and I think it's always difficult when you're starting a business to know how well it's going to be received and how big it's going to go and how quickly. I mean, we've got, this is a really ambitious business. And but after, even 5 days and seeing the numbers come in for next week and the following week, our big aim is to be able to give away 100,000 lunches in our first year. And I think based on the numbers that we can see right now, we're definitely on track for that.
Because it is a subscription service, isn't it? It's lunches as a service, as the cloud geeks would say. So once you've kind of got people locked in, unless they cancel, those lunches just sort of keep on coming, right?
Yeah, and part of the benefit of these lunches is that it's completely convenient. You just know every Wednesday or every Monday to Friday, I'm going to have lunch delivered, and I don't even have to think about it or go out and think about what am I going to buy and spend, a whole lot of money.
There's a lot of choices as well, because every day is something different. So it gives that variety. If you're giving lunch every day, you're always going to have something a little bit different.
Yeah,
So,
and I guess if you do work in an office and if you are in the same place at a regular time every week, it'd be excellent. I mean, for me, a little bit no good because I'm all over the place like a bad piece of knitting. But if you live a regular life and want to get that food into it and help people out, it's got to be a good service. It's not the first example of this buy one get one thing, and I can think of a couple. You can probably think of more. There's one globally that I know does really well is called Tom's Shoes, right? You know what you're nodding, you know about Tom's Shoes. So Tom's Shoes, you buy a pair of shoes, or I think they do eyewear now. You buy a pair of sunglasses or whatever. You buy a product,
do water,
a bunch of stuff,
a whole bunch of stuff,
and they match it with a donation to a developing country. Here in Auckland, I think in Sydney as well, is a Mexican restaurant called Zebrano, and doesn't tell its story very well. But it could. You buy a Mexican meal and it gets sent to an equivalent meal is served in Guatemala, I think it is, which is an interesting choice. Did you look at many other models before setting up Eat My Lunch?
Tom's Shoes was certainly part of the inspiration for the idea. And I think, that 1-for-1 concept is just so easy to understand. We're not asking people for money and then a portion of that goes somewhere and we're not really sure
and
how
some
much.
gets siphoned off for admin and
and you're not really sure who gets what at the end of the day. This is really simple. You buy a lunch and another child receives a lunch. And so definitely Tom's kind of was a bit of an inspiration for how we came up with the concept.
I bought some of his very, very early shoes, and sadly they were rubbish. I didn't wear them. They're very uncomfortable shoes. They cut into my Achilles. They chafed. But I was happy knowing that someone in Somalia was at least wearing some shoes. I should have sent them mine.
You should have.
I really should have. Maybe they didn't fit. Michael, you're a busy guy, right? You're chefs are busy guys.
Yeah.
And
they don't sleep here.
What's that? And
they don't sleep here.
That's right, and it said in some of the news coverage during the week that you've been up at 6 a.m. making sandwiches. Is that going to be sustainable, or is that just for the photo shoot?
I think pretty much at the moment we're doing it, but long term, of course, obviously we need to, as the business grows, we need to put the right people in. But at the moment, we are doing all the hard yards in the beginning. So yeah, we're there.
It's really amazing having New Zealand's top chef washing dishes and sweeping the floor in your kitchen.
I know, it's almost like it's a human being or something. Look at that. I don't know what you're normally like, Michael, but I'm looking at you. Are a tired man. I'm just looking at you. You look.
Yeah, it's been some tiring. I mean, this whole week's been it's really massive for us. So, and then this week coming up, it is going to be quite a huge week. So
even bigger. And I see, just in case you're not already busy enough, you offer on the site corporate catering.
We do.
So here's my thing. Here's my scam, Lisa. See, I found.
Are you going to order corporate
Yeah, I am. I'm going
catering?
to corporate cater my lunch because I think your order on the Wednesday for the next week's food works for you, but doesn't work for the customer. I think it just broke my heart. I really wanted to order your service, but I don't know what I'm doing next week.
Yeah, well,
So I'm going to get corporate catered for one.
There's a minimum number. You have to order at least 10 for us to deliver.
Damn.
But no, the businesses are really getting in behind it, and that's really great. So, last week we did a massive order to Trade Me for 100 lunches.
Good on them. I'm just actually, as you speak, if you were to come around here, look, you can see I'm just checking my Trade Me auctions while I'm doing this. So it all loops backwards. They're a lovely bunch, Trade Me. Good on you, Trade Me Auckland. Hey, last question. So if you're listening, we're talking to Lisa and Michael from Eat My Lunch. Sum it up for someone listening. They want to order this. Let's just imagine it's Wednesday night, sometime around Wednesday night. Just tell us again how they do it, what the website is, and just step us through it.
So you go on to eatmylunch.nz and you choose the days that you want lunch and how often, and we deliver it fresh every day to you at your office for $10. And for every lunch you buy, we also give a lunch to a Kiwi kid in need.
Easy peasy, and in that lunch is sandwiches hand chopped by Mr. Michael Meredith, and with any luck, a gingerbread man with a special little iced smile. Hey, Lisa and Michael from Eat My Lunch, thank you so much for joining me on Sunday Social.
Thank you.
And that interview, just like all our interviews, will be up online at radiolive.co.nz under shows and Sunday Social. Or, of course, you can listen to the whole ding-dang thing as the podcast on iTunes. After the break, the stylish. Well, he's looking stylish tonight. He's looking stylish. He's got one of those fancy button shirts that you see on the TV. He's wearing a button shirt. Mr. Simon Pound with the apps and internet news of the week, including an app that promises to tell you in real time just how awful the weather is. Back soon.
Graham Hill's Weekend Variety Wireless.
It's hard to find death on stage on the internet.
I don't think that's part of the conversation.
It's fascinating to see, though, because all these comedians talk about their death moments on stage, and I've never seen one.
The same kind of sensibility as Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, I think.
Yeah.
That kind of mixture of almost genuine horror with comedy and kids' entertainment. I mean, you couldn't get away with the child snatcher now. You'd frighten too many children.
Yeah, I just love the slogans. I always like to look for guys' slogans. His slogan is defeat the Washington machine, unleash the American dream. It rhymes. That must be true. What does it mean?
Graham Hill's Weekend Variety Wireless. Weekend nights from 8 till midnight and available via podcast 24/7 at radiolive.co.nz. It's Sunday Social. Everything you need to know about social media with Vaughan Davis.
And welcome back to Sunday Social. With me in the studio tonight, Mr. Simon Pound. Simon Pound, how the heck are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you, Vaughan. How are you, sir?
I am a box of birds, but you're in listening to the end of that conversation with Eat My Lunch. What did you think of that?
What a great bunch of people, and what an excellent idea. The food that I've seen people get the lunches, and it's really good as well, because your first question is, how can they make a lunch that's nice to eat for $10 and give a kid a lunch that's nice to eat and run a business off it? But having seen the food, it's really good.
I know, and it's sort of you wonder if the numbers are really working. Mind you, I mass-produced food, wonderful stop. We've been me and the boys have been we're not gorging ourselves, but we've been enjoying from Countdown pizzas. They've had these really nice pizzas in the frozen section, in the chilled section. Family pizzas, good sized pizza, $3.50. And I go, how can
you couldn't buy the materials, mate?
How can that work? Countdown makes profit. The pizza maker makes profit. $3.50. Absolutely outrageous. Hey, you've been. Let's move from the trivial to the magnificently significant. You've been thinking big thoughts this week about the future of storytelling.
The future of storytelling. Have I?
Yes, I have. You jolly have. That's what you told me.
Indeed,
that's what you told me.
Yeah. There's a big story that's just been published on Bloomberg, which is about the history of code. And they've done it in an interesting way, in that they've published it in their magazine, but also they've published it as a web page that has a whole lot of interactive elements that actually step you through the history of code, and through examples which you can play around with, try to make something that is reasonably complicated, if you aren't that close to it, pretty simple. So code, of course, is the building blocks of everything software, and everything software are the building blocks of the modern age. So,
like that business in Newmarket where you sit around and eat bagged lunches, Vend.
Indeed, Vend is a tech company, but your apps, your cars, everything has got computers that are based on code. So it is quite remarkable. You might know a lot more than I do about it, but as someone who works in a tech company and uses tech day to day, I learned an enormous amount. It's amazing how little we know about something so central to our life. And the cool thing about the story, which is up on Bloomberg, is that it feels like an evolution of storytelling, in that
which is kind of neat. So instead of being traditional, well, when I say traditional, contemporary rich storytelling online is normally about, here's some words, but interspersed there's some videos and some graphs or some
interactive diagram or something you can
actually
mouse over.
This is asking you to do stuff. This is like a story about guitars, where you're invited to
pluck along
as you go. But this is remarkably labor intensive storytelling. This is not something that a little magazine in New Zealand could necessarily afford to do, which is why you saw it at Bloomberg.com, which is a big multimedia empire out of the States, right?
And one of the things about it, like, there have been a few kind of breakthrough pieces, like the New York Times did a really amazing one about a conflict about some islands off the coast of China, which was remarkable. And
was it the Spratlys? Or
it was so memorable. I've forgotten the name of the island group, but it was a really remarkable bit of storytelling. And this as well, there aren't that many ads in it. There are a few ads for Bloomberg products throughout, but it's really out there as a a bit of hero content to stake their claim as being real pioneers in the digital age. It's a very cool thing, and learned a lot about code.
Very cool. Now, if I go to Bloomberg.com, what am I searching for?
Maybe we could pop it up on some kind of device like Twitter.
We'll pop it up on Twitter as the story goes on. Hey, going from very, very, very long storytelling to everyone's favorite short form storytelling method, Twitter. Interesting news this week that on direct messages anyway, they're removing the 140 character limit. That shocks me a little bit. Because I like the limit.
Even in DMs, I thought it was fantastic, because it always seems like, if you do have to
be friends,
if you do have to DM someone and you don't want to, post it as a tweet, normally it takes more than 100. You're asking a favor, or you're catching up about something, or you're alerting them to something, and yeah, I have always found it a little bit restricting.
So spreading that out is quite nice. So to step back a little bit and explain for those few remaining holdouts of the listening audience who are not on Twitter, a direct message is like a tweet. It's like that little tweety tweet message, except it goes straight from me to Simon, and no one else but the two of us and anyone at Twitter headquarters, I guess, who looks in our files can see it. So until now, it's been limited to 140 characters, just like an ordinary tweet, and now you can put an entire 35,000 word Bloomberg article about coding in there if you like.
Well, it's always a good idea if you are doing anything too private to actually not do it as a DM, because there's a golden rule that you will tweet it rather than send it as a DM anytime you don't want to.
Yes, there are people who have done that and people who are about to do that. Hey, I saw an interesting thing on Facebook today.
Tell me about the interesting thing you saw on Facebook today.
No, actually, I saw lots of interesting things. Probably the most interesting and tragic thing I saw was was a story from a promoted story from Burger King saying that on the back of the fight last night, which they sponsored, they were going to give Whoppers away not give them away, but sell them for $2 from midday to 2 p.m. When did I see the story? About 3 p.m.
Right.
It broke my heart. But if you had taken advantage of that offer and eaten the 2 Whoppers, you might need this. And this is really interesting from Sovereign, the life insurance people. You're wondering where this is going, aren't you? You're wondering where this is going. Two Whoppers, you might be in the market for life insurance. I don't know. Sovereign.
He giveth the positive mention, he taketh the positive mention away.
I'm even-handed here at Radio Live. Sovereign is doing a really interesting thing, and it's a bit gimmicky, a bit stunty, but by crikey, why not? They're giving away free life insurance to anyone who wants it.
Yeah, isn't that cool? There are conditions.
Cool. Well, there are that you can see. If this were a print ad, there'd be more asterisks than a French comic book. But do you like that?
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Again.
I think like a French kids bookshelf or something. But yeah, no,
that's close. That's close. And the deal is, so you need to be on Facebook, but I know 2.49 million of you are, so you probably are on Facebook. Search Sovereign NZ, the life insurance company, and fill in a couple of really easy things, and wham bam, you've got $10,000. It's not much of life insurance for 6 months. So I'm sweet. I've signed up. If I get run over on the way home, I'm covered.
I can just imagine both of us working in meetings with lawyers around ads.
I know.
I can just imagine the process on that day. Someone came up with the idea and they were like,
great idea.
Yeah, but yeah, well done getting it over the line. And what a cool thing.
I think it is a really cool thing. And they've based this on the insight that, very few of us, compared to other markets like the States especially, very few of us actually have life insurance. And this is like a gateway drug. This is like a little taster. Come on, give it a go. $10,000 for 6 months, and before you know it, you've got $1 million for life.
Yeah, but
maybe. Hey,
having life insurance is a good thing to do, kids.
I think it is a good thing to do. Hey, have you had a look at the news around Apple Music? You would have seen the announcements this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty interesting. Haven't checked it out as such.
Well, you can't because it hasn't
doesn't
launched.
Exist. Yeah,
it's vaporware. It's
but
PowerPoint.
I was impressed by the way that they had managed to get 100 countries at once ready for the launch.
Yes, that's really interesting. So the news in a nutshell, news that you can use on Radio Live, is that Apple has finally acknowledged that the music business now is all about streaming. It's not, it hasn't been about physical things for a very long time. Then it became about buy an album online or buy a track online, iTunes style. And then along came streaming services, particularly Spotify and Pandora. You just pay a subscription, or in the case of both of those things, actually, you just pay nothing and accept some ads and you get your music. Well, it's faced up to that and has announced that as of next month, it's starting a streaming service worldwide, or almost worldwide, 100 countries, where for $10 a month US, you can pretty much access all the music they have, which is pretty cool.
Isn't that something as well? Because Napster actually proved that the consumer wants to have all-you-can-eat music. So long ago, it will make us feel very old if we say it must be about 20 years ago now that Napster first rocked out. At least 15. And it's taken that long, more than a decade, for the industry to catch up and offer people a legitimate way to have all-you-can-eat listening.
Well, I guess there's two aspects there. Either they're in denial, which is unlikely because they're not stupid, or they've gone, well, we might as well extend the life of this business model for as long as we can, make as much money as we can, before it inevitably dies. But you made a really good point.
And a lot of rights holders, because now music companies are basically just collections of lawyers trying to make the best out of the rights they hold.
Rock and roll. But the point you made about Apple launching in 100 countries simultaneously on their music system is really significant, because when Pandora came here, and Pandora, this is, I'm a Pandora person. There are two types of people, Pandora people and Spotify people. And I like Pandora because it serves up unexpected, interesting music. New Zealand was, on Pandora, only the third country in the world.
Yeah.
It was in the States for years and years and years. It's older than LinkedIn, older than Facebook. This is how old Pandora is. It took them that long to make licensing deals in the second and third countries. It is all about the lawyers. But the other thing Apple Music is about, before we go to the break, is a Kiwi at the heart of it, Mr. Zane Lowe.
Yeah, isn't that cool? I mean,
represent
the influence that he had at BBC One. I mean, he had one of the biggest shows in world music, and to make the move to Apple, it would be the only job in the world that would take you out of there.
Absolutely cool. So we've got a Kiwi, born and bred, influencing the musical listening tastes of a bazillion Apple Music customers. I'm Vaughan Davis. With me, Mr. Simon Pound. You listen to Radio Live Sunday Social. Back soon.
New Zealand's #1 home and garden radio show is right here on Radio Live. Tony Morell takes you through your home and garden in 6 hours with Helen Jackson on food, Hamish Dodd on building and design, DIY with Stan Scott, and Shannon Lush with your household tips. The Mitre 10 Home and Garden Show, Saturday 6 a.m. till midday on Radio Live with Mitre 10, providing inspiration for outdoor living. It's Sunday Social with Vaughan Davis.
Oh, I'm waiting for that music, Jay. I'm waiting for that music. I'm waiting for that music. Where's the music? Where's the music? Where's the music? Where's the music? He's getting the music. I can't start without the music. Here it is. Wow, you saw under the kimono there. Welcome back to Radio Live Sunday Social. Yes, indeed. Don't worry. Be happy. There are 1.47 bazillion apps out there. Most of them are rubbish. One that's not, Mr. Pound. One that's not. And I was using this yesterday. It's called Windfinder.
Right. Tell me about that.
Are you a weather fan?
I'm not a fan of the weather when I'm riding my bike to work and it rains.
Well, I've got an app for you. Yeah. Well, in fact, it doesn't really do much about, it doesn't do much in the way of rain, this one. It's called Windfinder, and it does what it says on the tin. It's not a new app. It's been out since 2009, but it's been updated since then. And I had cause to use it yesterday. I was standing on a godforsaken soccer field in Papatoetoe. If you're listening from down there, I'm really sorry. I've said two bad things about you tonight. And it was quite windy. And I had made plans. I had made plans to fly my plane on the North Shore about an hour later. And I was wondering to myself, is it windy up there as well? Or was it just windy down here? Luckily, there's an app for that. And the name of the app is Windfinder. It's free for Android fans, and iPhone. And it provides almost real-time readouts of the wind speed and direction, plus the trends over the last sort of 12 hours for 13,000 locations worldwide.
Wow, including the North Shore of Auckland.
Yes, there are two. There was the ones I looked at. There was one at Orewa Beach, and there was one at Long Bay. And the way it does it is really cool, very 21st century and very participatory. Have you ever been to someone's house? I bet you've got co-workers with these, and I can think of one, Mr. Gracewood, that probably has one. One of these geeky home weather stations.
Yeah, well, I've been to visit Rick Breeze of Greylin Weather, and he's got a fully functioning, fantastic weather centre.
And you can buy the bits off the internet, or you can buy one from Dick Smith, pretty much. A couple $100. Good birthday present. Good birthday present.
I've clambered atop his roof looking at it.
That's right. So it's got the little anemometer zipping around, little weather vane that says which way it's going and the temperature and that. And there's a worldwide network of these weather geeks, and it all feeds into, among other things, this app called Windfinder, which is really cool. So you can see instantly to a suburb level, more so perhaps if you're in LA and London and there's a higher density of weather geeks, but enough here, and you can find out exactly what the wind's doing, which is kind of cool. I like it.
With two for our city, are we punching above our weight in weather geekery?
Well, there was two on the North Shore. They're scattered around everywhere. Of course, the other, even more granular but less successful, but kind of cool weather app I really like, or wind app. This is so niche. The wind app I really like is called Vavud. Vavud. I don't know how it's pronounced. It's Finnish, I think. Vavud. To use. Vavuud. Vavud. And what this does, it's not just an app. It's a widget, and the widget is an anemometer, which is the little cups that spin around. You plug it into the microphone socket on your smartphone, hold it up in the air. The wind makes the little cups spin around, and you get a wind reading right there, right now.
So if it's windy enough to spin some cups around atop your iPhone,
yes,
you probably didn't need a wind meter to tell you that.
Well, no, but because it tells you.
It's like the rock that if this rock is wet, then it is raining.
But it tells
you
the
rock is warm to the touch. It's sunny.
If the rock is missing, there's been an earthquake or something. But it tells you exactly how windy it is in meters per second or knots. So it's kind of versatile in that respect. But this is the cool bit. It automatically uploads that reading to the internet. So you've suddenly got not just this fixed network of wind things like Windfinder, but you've got the people out there with their phones going, how windy is it? They hold their thing
helping
up,
the people.
Spinny, spinny, spin, it goes to the map.
I'd be quite a useful little weather station, because whenever I ride my bike to work, it does rain in the distance between Point Chev and Newmarket. So if I choose to ride my bike on any given day, I can tell you it will rain at least at one point.
That's all. We don't need these apps. We just need to know what Simon Pound's movements
That's just Auckland, though, isn't it?
That's right. The downside with Vavud is that it's not very popular. There was a Kickstarter to get it manufactured. The little spinny thing,
the little cup thing on the top.
It's quite sophisticated. Because do you know? You don't know, but I'm going to ask. Do you know how it knows how your phone knows how fast this thing is rotating? Even
is it like the way that the microphone?
No,
not like the microphone.
No.
Wind
magnet.
Right.
So your phone has a magnetic sensor, right? Because all phones have got compasses these days. And inside this spinny thing, 2 little magnets, and that interruption to the magnetic field tells it how fast it is going. So the apps of the week are called Windfinder and Vavu. Totally recommended. Hey, I thought of an app today.
Tell me about the app that we're not going to talk about RunPee. Was that there?
Well, you're going to the movies. You're about to use RunPee, aren't you?
Yeah,
which
so your app advice has been very useful. I'm off to see Mad Max, and so I looked on RunPee, which is a free app to download that you gave me the steer
Let's talk
for.
about the problem first. You've been drinking coffee, wine, and tea all day. You're off to the movie, which is quite a long movie, I'm guessing.
Movies are always long.
So, and you know, you're not a 19-year-old anymore. You've got a man bladder. What's the problem that this app's going to solve?
So it tells you the time you should nip out to use the lav, and it tells you what action you will miss. It only works for obviously very popular movies currently screening. So Mad Max I'm off to, and there are 3 possible times it tells me in the movie that I should pop out. Gives me the duration of 4 minutes and tells me the action that I will miss. Then it also tells us if there's anything happening after the credits that's worth staying away for.
I like that feature.
No, in this instance. And it has a user poll on whether the movie you're seeing is worth seeing in 3D. And Mad Max gets an 80% yes.
Oh, that's worth the extra $5. That's kind of cool.
It's free, still free.
Now, here is some fantastic Kiwi trivia. Do you know which movie inspired the maker of RunPee to make that app? Peter Jackson's King Kong. He got to the end of that movie with a very, very full bladder, and he went, "Oh, bloody hell. I was holding on for the whole time in case I missed anything good." And you know what? I could have gone up pretty much any time in the whole thing and I would have missed nothing.
Yeah.
There you go. Peter, if you're listening, I'm sure you're big enough and rich enough not to be upset by that. Hey, just before we go, I'm always thinking of apps that never get made. So I'm just going to start talking about them on the radio now so someone else can make them and just send me a check. This is a homeopathy app.
Yeah.
Don't you laugh. And what this, because I was in the
only install 1/1000th of it, and it will work perfectly.
Don't be so cynical. I was in a pharmacy today, and I saw in a so-called pharmacy a homeopathic jet lag remedy. And I thought to myself, wonder if that works. I didn't actually think that. I went, oh, that doesn't work. But what if there was an app? What if there was an app where you could point your phone at any homeopathic product? It went away and thought about it and told you whether or not it worked. It was just a yes, no. And the great thing, of course, the answer is always no. It doesn't need a database. It doesn't even need an internet connection. It just needs to wait for 5 seconds so it looks like it's thinking and just comes back and says no.
I saw a tweet on the internet saying that someone decided to pay only 1/1000th of their bill from the homeopath because it would be much more effective that way.
There you go. Concentration, dilution. We've got it all here on Radio Live Sunday Social. I'm Vaughan Davis. Thank you so much to my first half guests from Eat My Lunch. That interview up at radiolive.co.nz. Jay Mons, the technical producer from hell. Simon Pound, the guy from Vend. And the podcast, of course, is up at iTunes. I'm back next week. Enjoy Weekend Variety Wireless. Enjoy the news. Good night.
Winners of all best news categories. Radio Live News.